GT Divide Podcast coming to another episode. So I talked about, a little bit about my book, obviously, and this is going to be, I'm going to spend a lot of time on mental health, mental abuse, domestic violence type of stuff to promote the book, to prepare people for when it comes out. Because when it comes out, I want the thing flying off the shelf. Um, the book's called Trauma Bonded. Um, so here's the deal. I've talked about what a trauma bond is. Um, there are different types of traumatic bonds that you can get with people. Um, but the main one that we talk about is where there's an abuser and there's a victim. Um, Christians call it demonic stronghold. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about that because I always got to give the Christian biblical perspective on things. That's just how I am. Uh, so 2 Corinthians 10:3-5 describes a battle with thoughts that do not conform to God's truth found in the Bible. These wrong thoughts then create unhealthy, toxic beliefs, speculation, imagination, or arguments. And so I'm going to read 2 Corinthians 10:3-5. Sorry, I thought I had it all pulled up all perfectly, but I didn't. For though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. So here, we're so here there as the writing to the church, he's talking about we're waging war with weapons that aren't of the world. So these are different types of weapons, right? This is a different type of battle. This is a battle that is oftentimes unseen, right? Demolishing strongholds. And so strongholds, in my perspective, there will be some Christians that may disagree. Um, Strongholds are mental, mainly mental. I don't think the strongholds are physical. I think that they're mental. It's a battle of your consciousness. It's a battle of your spirit, of your soul, right? And so strongholds are a battle that's mental because you can't see it. Now, if you go out there and you fight somebody in a boxing ring and you're punching each other, you can start to see the blood. You can start to see the black eyes, the busted lip, swelling on the face. But when you're battling in the realm of strongholds, you can't see it. You can feel it. Your body can still react to it as if it's a physical battle, right? We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And so, therefore, so it says we take captive every thought because this stronghold, this battle, and these strongholds that we're talking about when it comes to trauma bonding is a mental battle. I said in the past podcast that one of the issues that we have is so you have a strong emotional connection, right? And it's formed as a result of experiencing abuse or trauma from another person. But part of the problem is that it can be rooted in past trauma or unhealthy relationships or deceptive beliefs about oneself or God. Deceptive beliefs about oneself. And that's something I kind of touched on my last episode is, you know, a deceptive belief in oneself means that there's something missing inside of you that puts you in position to be abused. And I think people don't. I think we know that as humans. I think we know that there's something there, but when you're the victim of something, like you focus so much on the abuser, but you don't really put the focus on yourself to figure out, okay, what is it missing in me that allowed me to put myself in position to be abused in the first place? Granted, there's something missing in their abuser too, but that's a different story. We're not worried about the person that abused. We're trying to help the people that have been abused be able to grow, prosper, and regain health, mental health again, being healthy mentally again. Uh, and so, yeah, it's rooted in past trauma. And I think that their abuse is rooted in past trauma, the reason why they are the way they are. But I also think that the victims, right, the victim's mindset and mentality is also rooted in past trauma. Because at the end of the day, we all experience trauma. Like people were like, man, my childhood was so perfect, or this, or my relationship was so perfect. But at the end of the day, when you actually dig down into it, there's no such thing as perfection. There's always issues, there's always problems, and always things that need to be overcome. And so, when people say, "Oh man, it's perfect, man," I'll be looking like I'll be the first to admit that I did not have the best childhood. I will be the first to admit. I mean, single parent household. My mom had to do it all on her own. She had to work multiple jobs. I mean, obviously, that causes trauma to the kids. And so that is part of my issue. That was part of my issue, part of me putting myself in a situation to be able to be in a bond that was traumatic, that was hard to leave, that caused some mental health and issues with me. I mean, I found myself doing things and saying things that were not me. That was not my natural self. And that's the crazy thing is that the changes that happen to you when you're being abused mentally. You start to do things and say things that aren't you. Um, and it's crazy because people notice. People will notice, like your friends will notice. And so I wanted to give you guys one tidbit when you first start out and you're talking the talking phases, you're ready to be you want to be in a relationship with this person, right? I'm gonna give you two tidbits. One, if you ever feel like their anger, right? Like they're angry towards you, but you feel like that anger should be geared towards somebody else, that's because they're in a trauma bond with somebody else. Or they're the abuser and they've abused somebody else and that person is now leaving them. So now they're angry because that person's leaving. So they take that anger out on the person they're in the relationship or the person that they're trying to get in a relationship with. And so if you see that in a relationship where you feel like, man, we're in the beginning stages, we're in the talking phases, and it just feels like this person is just angry at something, and they get mad because your light pisses them off because they're angry. They don't have the light that you got, and so they'll say things to you like, "Why are you always so happy?" or "Why are you always so upbeat?" People that say things like that to you in the beginning, they're telling you something, and we need to make sure that we're listening. Because there were times, and you'll see it in the book when, as I kind of go through history and to think back when this particular person would say that to me. Why are you so upbeat all the time? Why are you always so happy? And it's like that, and you like thinking like that's me, but they want to change that. They don't want you to be that because they can't be that. And so eventually over time, they change that, but then they get mad at you when they change you. They mentally abuse you to the point where you're no longer happy and chipper all the time. And then they're like, why can't you just be like that again? And then you're wondering to yourself, why can't I just be like that again? Interesting, right? So think about that. Number two, the second tidbit I'm gonna give you guys um, is people who abusers who will intentionally put you in these type of relationships, like get in a relationship with you. What they'll do is typically these people can't be alone, right? They can't be alone. They always have to have somebody, and so they're jumping from person to person to person to person to person to person, just constantly all the time. So what happens is they will try to make you like the last person. So if the last person, and it's crazy because I found this out afterwards. I found out who the last person was afterwards, and they'll try to make you like that person, right? So if that person buys them gifts all the time, they're going to expect you to buy them gifts all the time. They're going to be like, well, I'm used to getting gifts, or this person used to buy me gifts, or why don't you buy me gifts? Like, and a lot more covert people that are like under the rug abusers that try to act like they're like perfect people. They'll literally hit you with, well, why don't you ever buy me anything? Why don't you ever give me this? Why don't you take me on trips and all that stuff? Then you get out of the relationship, you find out, man, the person before them took them on trips, bought them gifts all the time, and that's the type. And so, and they'll even change themselves into that type of person, right? They'll buy you a whole lot of gifts because they think, okay, that made me feel a certain type of way. That made me attached, right? So I was attached to that type of thing. So then they'll do that to you to try to get you attached to them. And then that's when you got to be careful because they talk about love bombing and all this jazz. I don't like using those technical terms, but yeah, that's essentially so they'll buy you a lot of gifts, right? Knowing that they're treating you like crap, they'll buy you gifts because at the end of the day, they think that that covers up the issue that or the problem or the abuse that they're putting you through. Though, if I just buy them a gift, they're good. And so you have to be careful. So those are the two things. You'll have anger that you feel like is not supposed to be for you, but they're taking it on you. That's because that somebody else that they're currently talking to, and this is when you could be in a talking phase or the beginning phase relationship, but somebody that they were probably abusing, or I don't know what the issue was over here. That person is now trying to get out. They're leaving them, and so now they're mad at that person, but they're taking it out on the new person, and then that cycle just continues from relationship to relationship. And then number two, obviously, they will try to make you like the person that they just had. And like I said, these type of people have a whole bunch of different masks. Like they can put on a different mask for anything and everything. Like they can have, if they have, say it's a guy, right, and he has a mental health disorder, one of the cluster B personality disorders, and so he'll put on a mask for you. He'll be like, man, I love Christian music. I go to church all the time. I love Christian music, yada yada yada. But then when they're around another person, it's a different mask. It's different mask. They can literally go from loving Jesus Christ to hating Jesus Christ just based on two different people because they're trying to appease two different people. And so what happens is sometimes they forget that they've got all these masks on for all these people, and then it starts to slip off. And then you look, and then you're like, man, what? Like you're listening to different music than I'm used to you listening to because they have this mask for you. They listen to certain music. They'll listen to the music that you listen to and want to bask in the glory of everything that you do. And so all of a sudden it starts to slip a little bit. Oh man, when did you start listening? Like they'll go from listening to like just country, Chris Stapleton, and then they'll be listening to like some hardcore like rock, in your face rock, and you're like, I've never heard you listen to that before. Well, that's because they're entertaining somebody else, right? And so that mask of listening to that type of music or doing that type of thing or wearing that type of clothing, having that type of mindset, right? Um, so you got to be careful of these things. We got to be aware, and that's what kind of what my goal in the book is, to be able to break these things down into a story mode where you can read it and feel like you're living it, and gives you the opportunity to kind of see what it's like to be going through it, but then what it's like to be coming out of it as well. So, but yeah, the book's called Trauma Bond. It's going to be coming out soon, guys. So be looking for it. Please like, subscribe, and share. I'm on YouTube, the Vibe Podcast, and then I'm also on TikTok too. And I like to post on both. So please like, subscribe, and share, guys. I appreciate you.